all quite chaotic here this morning. I'm just breaking down these 5/5s. You can see there's one still at the end there in that double nuke box to be done. The one next to that is my last cell builder holding my bank queens. There's another hive that I didn't put the bee escape on till this morning, so I've got to take those supers later, but the rest have all been broken down into single 5 frames for the winter. And by doing that, you make nucs. So I do make them up strong this time of year. I basically cut these in half and I put equal amounts of brood and bees in each one. I could perhaps go to 3 from the 10 frames, but I prefer to err on the side of caution and make them strong, because basically the ivy is going to start flowering in about 3 to 4 weeks. And I want bees and queens ready to profit from that, because that's the last feed and that's the last time they're really going to get any huge amounts of pollen. So they need foragers. So this is the last kind of call. What I have left here will be the basis for next year. So what I'm also doing at the same time is I'm requeening. So I've requeened number 69 there. That was basically a white dot queen, 2 years old, and she wasn't performing well. So she gets the hive tool test. And then in its place goes a new queen that I harvested last week under a pushing cage. And it all adds problems to the dynamics of this, because you have to have enough emerging brood. Now the problem is, if you put a queen that's been harvested for say 7 or 8 days, and she really needs to be with nurse bees straight away. But if you put her under a pushing cage with bees that aren't going to hatch for a while, you're adding another issue. She might well not make it. So you have to make sure that you find a frame of emerging brood for that queen. And then if you're putting a queen in the nuke, which I'm doing, without using a candy plug, I prefer to use a pushing cage as well. You've got to find a frame of brood for that. But there you go. It's just all adding dynamics. I mean, I could put the cages in, come back in 3 days' time, then open up the end of the candy plug and let them eat through it, and at the same time cut out queen cells. But for me, because I've got these queens to use up, I want emerging broods. I want nurse bees straight onto these queens. I don't want them sitting around trying to fend for themselves. I want them to be cleaned and looked after properly. So this is just one of my banks. I've got other ones here that I've just done the same to. These were all production hives, but also for drones and for harvesting brood from. So these are all done and they've been requeened when necessary. I've got 2 that are requeened here and the rest up here. There you go. It's a bit of a sea of bees at the moment. There's still some to do here. That one there has got to be broken down. You see, it's the 5/5 configuration I had for the summer, where I was taking bees and brood from the bottom and putting it in the top, but without a queen. So the queen was in the bottom and I could finish cells on there. And then over here we got exactly the same. You can see I've got convolvulus weeds growing everywhere, but I don't like using weed killer on it. And that's why it looks a bit of a mess, but I'd rather have that than using any weed killer, to be honest. It's tempting because it gets rid of it all, but to be honest, just a strimmer through every now and again keeps the whole lot under control. So there's our inseminated queens, which Alicia was beavering away with me this last 3 weeks to get all those done. So those now, the front doors are off because the queens are laying now. So we've got a really good stock there. I haven't had a count up yet. I've got some on the other side and some at the mating station we used just because it was a good place to put bees. But overall, we're nearly there. The goldenrod, by the way, is not native to here. I planted it out and that's all we get every year. And the bees really don't do much on it. Saying that, there's a bee on this one. But I believe there's an awful lot of varieties of goldenrod and we only have a couple here. What you need is cold weather for it, and we don't get it. Same as asters. We don't get much with asters here. You've got to really nurture them. If you have cold weather, the asters and the goldenrod seem to do really well. Just look at the climate zones for goldenrod and you'll see why it does so well. Anyway, that's what I'm up to today. But we're nearly there now. It's nearly just down to feeding and prep for the winter, which is obviously starting now, but now it's just getting things, reduction of size into boxes and getting them ready. Have a good day.